Some stories begin with a miracle, others with a moment of courage. This one began with a little girl in a wheelchair and a dog everyone else had given up on. It was a rainy Saturday morning in the small town of Willow Springs. The clouds hung low, and the world outside seemed painted in shades of gray. But inside the Miller family's minivan, there was a sense of excitement and hope. 10-year-old Mia Miller sat in the back seat, her hands folded in her lap, her wheelchair secured beside her. Her mother, Laura, glanced at her in the rearview mirror, worry etched on her face. "Are you sure you want to do this, sweetheart?" Laura asked, her voice gentle. Mia nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "I want to meet the dogs, Mom. All of them." Her father, Tom, squeezed her hand. "We're proud of you, kiddo." The family was on their way to the Willow Springs Animal Shelter, a place Mia had dreamed of visiting ever since her accident. She'd always loved animals, but after the car crash that left her paralyzed from the waist down, her world had grown smaller, quieter. The doctor said she might never walk again, but Mia refused to let that stop her from living. As they pulled into the shelter's parking lot, the rain eased, and a faint rainbow appeared in the sky. Mia smiled, taking it as a sign. Inside the shelter, the air was filled with the sounds of barking, meowing, and the soft voices of volunteers. The walls were lined with photos of happy adoptions, and the smell of wet fur and disinfectant hung in the air. The shelter manager, Mrs. Carter, greeted them at the door. "Welcome, Mia. We're so glad you're here." Mia beamed. "I can't wait to meet the dogs." Mrs. Carter led them down a hallway lined with kennels, dogs of all shapes and sizes pressed against the bars, tails wagging, eyes hopeful. Mia reached out to pet a golden retriever, who licked her hand eagerly. But as they neared the end of the row, the atmosphere changed. The barking grew louder, more frantic. In the last kennel, a large German shepherd stood alone, his fur bristling, his eyes wild. He snarled at anyone who came near, his body tense with fear and anger. "That's Brutus," Mrs. Carter said quietly. "He's a special case. He's been here the longest. No one can get close to him. He's been through a lot." Mia's eyes widened. "What happened to him?" Mrs. Carter hesitated. "He was found abandoned, chained in a backyard. We think he was abused. He doesn't trust people. He's bitten to volunteers. We're not sure he'll ever be adopted." Laura pulled Mia's wheelchair closer. "Maybe we should move on, honey. There are lots of other dogs." "But—" Mia shook her head. "I want to meet him." Mrs. Carter looked uncertain. "Are you sure? He can be dangerous." Mia nodded, her voice steady. "I know what it's like to be scared. I just want to say hello." Tom and Laura exchanged worried glances, but Mia's mind was made up. Mrs. Carter unlocked the kennel door, keeping a safe distance. "Just be careful, Mia. Don't get too close." Mia wheeled herself forward, her heart pounding. Brutus growled, his body rigid, his eyes locked on her. The room fell silent, everyone holding their breath. Mia stopped a few feet from the kennel, her voice soft and calm. "Hi, Brutus. My name is Mia. I'm not here to hurt you." Brutus snarled, baring his teeth. Mia didn't flinch. She simply smiled, her eyes full of understanding. "I know you're scared," she whispered. "I get scared too, sometimes. But it's okay. You're not alone." The shelter staff watched in awe, unsure of what would happen next. Laura's hands trembled on the handles of Mia's wheelchair, her heart in her throat. And then, something incredible happened. Brutus stopped, growling. He lowered his head, his ears flicking forward. The shelter staff exchanged nervous glances. As Mia sat quietly in front of Brutus's kennel, the big German shepherd's chest heaved with every breath, his eyes darting between Mia and the adults behind her. The tension in the room was thick, every muscle in Laura's body taut with fear for her daughter. But Mia didn't move. She simply watched Brutus, her hands resting in her lap, her voice gentle and steady. "You don't have to be afraid, Brutus. You know what it is like to be scared. I was in a car accident last year. I used to run and play, but now I can't walk. Sometimes I get really angry and sad, but my mom and dad help me. Maybe I can help you, too." Brutus's ears flicked forward, his growl fading to a low whine. He pressed his nose against the bars, sniffing the air. Mia smiled, her heart pounding with hope. Laura knelt beside her daughter, whispering, "Mia, are you sure you want to do this? He's not like the other dogs." Mia nodded. "He's just scared, Mom. Like I was." Mrs. Carter watched in amazement. No one's ever gotten this close to him before. He usually lunges at the bars. Tom stepped forward, his voice low. Maybe he senses something in Mia. Maybe he knows she understands. As Mia continued to talk softly, Brutus's body language began to change. His tail, which had been tucked between his legs, slowly relaxed. He sat down, his head tilted, his eyes locked on Mia's face. The staff and Mia's parents watched, barely daring to breathe. For a moment, it seemed as if the world had shrunk to just the girl and the dog, two souls connected by pain and hope. Mia reached into her bag and pulled out a small stuffed animal, a faded bunny she'd had since she was a baby. She held it out to Brutus, her hand trembling. "This is Bunny. He helps me when I'm scared. Maybe he can help you too." Brutus sniffed the air, his nose twitching. He inched closer to the bars, his eyes never leaving the stuffed animal. Mia smiled, her heart swelling with hope. Laura wiped away a tear, her fear slowly giving way to... "She's never shared Bunny with anyone before," she whispered to Tom. Tom squeezed her hand. "She sees herself in him." Mrs. Carter stepped forward, her voice soft. "Mia, would you like to try giving Brutus a treat?" Mia nodded eagerly. Mrs. Carter handed her a biscuit, and Mia held it out, her hand steady. Brutus hesitated, then slowly, carefully, took the treat from her fingers. His tongue brushed her palm, and for the first time, his eyes soft. The room erupted in quiet cheers. The staff clapped, some wiping away tears. Laura hugged Mia, her heart bursting with pride. But the moment was fragile. Brutus retreated to the back of his kennel, the old fear returning. Mia didn't push. She simply smiled and said, "It's okay, Brutus. I'll come back tomorrow." As the family left the shelter, the staff gathered around Mrs. Carter, their voices hushed with wonder. "I've never seen anything like it," one volunteer whispered. "It's like she spoke his language." Mrs. Carter nodded, her eyes shining. Maybe she did. That night, Mia couldn't stop thinking about Brutus. She told her parents stories about the brave dog who just needed a friend. She dreamed of running through fields with him, both of them free from pain and fear. But Laura and Tom worried. They knew Brutus's history, how he'd been found chained in a backyard, his body covered in scars, his spirit broken by years of neglect. He'd bitten 2 volunteers, and the shelter had considered putting him down more than once. Still, they couldn't deny the connection between Mia and Brutus. They agreed to return the next day, hoping that the fragile bond would grow. The next morning, Mia woke early, her heart full of hope. She dressed quickly, clutching Bunny to her chest. As they drove to the shelter, Laura and Tom exchanged anxious glances. "What if something goes wrong?" Laura whispered. Tom shook his head. "We have to trust her. She's never been this happy since the accident." When they arrived, Mrs. Carter greeted them with a smile. "Brutus has been waiting by the door all morning. I think he knew you were coming." Mia wheeled herself to the kennel, her eyes shining. "Hi, Brutus. I missed you." Brutus stood at the front of the kennel, his tail wagging tentatively. Mia held out her hand, and this time, Brutus pressed his nose into her palm, his body trembling with emotion. The staff watched in awe as Mia and Brutus sat together, 2 broken souls finding comfort in each other. But the journey was far from over. The real test was yet to come. Would Brutus trust Mia enough to leave the shelter? And would Mia, his family, be willing to take a chance on the dog everyone else had given up on? As the sun streamed through the shelter windows, hope flickered in the air, a hope that would soon be tested in ways no one could have imagined. The next few days became a routine that everyone at the shelter looked forward to. Each morning, Mia and her parents would arrive, and Brutus would be waiting at the front of his kennel, ears perked, tail wagging in anticipation. The staff, who had once dreaded caring for the big German shepherd, now watched in amazement as he transformed before their eyes. Mia's approach was always the same, gentle, patient, and full of kindness. She would talk to Brutus about her day, about her dreams, and about the things that scared her. She told him how she missed running and playing, but how she was learning to find new ways to be happy. She told him that sometimes, when the world felt too big and scary, all she needed was a friend. Brutus listened. He would sit close to the bars, his eyes locked on Mia's face, his body relaxed. Sometimes, he would whine softly, as if trying to answer her. Other times, he would rest his head on his paws, content just to be near her. The staff and volunteers were stunned. Brutus, the dog who had once lunged at anyone who came near, now allowed Mia to stroke his fur through the bars. He even took treats from her hand, his mouth gentle and careful. One afternoon, Mrs. Carter approached Mia's parents, her voice trembling with emotion. "I've never seen anything like this. Mia has done in a week what we couldn't do in months." Brutus trusts her. He needs her. Laura's eyes filled with tears. She needs him, too. "I haven't seen her this happy since before the accident." Tom nodded, his voice thick. "It's like they're healing each other." The breakthrough came on a sunny Friday. Mia arrived at the shelter with a new toy for Brutus, a squeaky ball she had picked out herself. She wheeled up to the kennel, holding the ball out. "Look, Brutus, I brought you something special." Brutus's eyes lit up. He barked a happy, excited sound that made everyone in the room smile. Mrs. Carter opened the kennel door, her hands shaking. "Let's see if he'll come out for you, Mia." The room fell silent as Mia wheeled herself back, giving Brutus space. The big dog hesitated, looking at the open door, then at Mia. Slowly, he stepped out, his body low and cautious. He sniffed Mia's hand, then gently took the ball from her lap. The staff erupted in cheers. Some clapped. Others wiped away tears. Laura hugged Tom, her heart bursting with pride and relief. Brutus dropped the ball at Mia's feet, tail wagging furiously. Mia laughed, a sound so pure and joyful that it brought tears to everyone's eyes. Mrs. Carter knelt beside Mia, her voice choked with emotion. "Would you like to take Brutus for a walk in the yard?" Mia's eyes widened. Of course," Mrs. Carter said, clipping a leash to Brutus's collar. "He's ready." Mia's parents watched, their hearts in their throats, as Mia wheeled herself into the shelter as a fenced yard. Brutus trotting beside her. The two moved together in perfect harmony, the dog matching Mia's pace, never pulling or straying. For the first time, Brutus looked truly happy. He chased the ball, brought it back to Mia, and even rolled over for belly rubs. The staff watched in awe, unable to believe the transformation. As the sun set, Mrs. Carter approached Mia's parents. "I think it's time we talk about adoption." Laura and Tom exchanged a look. "Are you sure?" Laura asked, her voice trembling. Mrs. Carter smiled. "I've never been more sure of anything. Brutus needs Mia, and Mia needs Brutus. They're meant to be together." That night, the Miller family sat around the dinner table, talking about what it would mean to bring Brutus home. There were concerns his past, his size, the challenges of caring for a dog with a history of aggression. But Mia was resolute. "I know he's been hurt," she said softly, "but I have too. We can help each other." Tom squeezed her hand. "We'll do whatever it takes to make this work." Laura nodded, tears in her eyes. "He's already part of the family." The next day, they returned to the shelter, paperwork in hand. The staff gathered to say goodbye to Brutus, their hearts full of hope and pride. Mrs. Carter hugged Mia, whispering, "You saved him, sweetheart. Don't ever forget that." As they left the shelter, Brutus trotting proudly beside Mia's wheelchair. The staff waved, some openly crying. The journey was just beginning. There would be challenges ahead, setbacks, and fears to overcome. But for the first time in a long time, both Mia and Brutus had something they hadn't dared to hope for: a second chance. The first days at home with Brutus were filled with excitement, nerves, and a few moments of doubt. The Miller family had prepared as best they could, dog-proofing the house, setting up a cozy bed for Brutus near Mia's room, and reading every book they could find about rehabilitating rescue dogs. But nothing could have prepared them for the emotional roller coaster that followed. Brutus was cautious at first. He paced the house, sniffing every corner, his body tense and alert. Loud noises made him flinch, and sudden movements sent him scurrying to his bed. But Mia was patient. She spent hours sitting beside him, reading stories, singing softly, and offering treats. She never forced him to come to her. She simply let him know she was there. Laura and Tom watched with a mixture of pride and anxiety. There were setbacks. Brutus barked at visitors, growled at the vacuum cleaner, and once, in a moment of panic, knocked over a lamp. But touched Mia calmed him with her gentle voice and steady presence. One afternoon, Mia's friends from school came to visit. They were nervous at first, remembering the stories they'd heard about Brutus. But Mia reassured them. "He's not scary. He's just been hurt, like me." The girls sat in a circle on the living room floor, giggling as Brutus sniffed their hands. Mia beamed with pride as Brutus lay down beside her, his head resting on her lap. For the first time since her accident, Mia felt like a normal kid again. But the real test came a few weeks later, at the annual Willow Springs community picnic. Mia wanted to show everyone how much Brutus had changed. Laura and Tom were hesitant, but Mia insisted. "He's ready, Mom. I know he is." The park was crowded, filled with laughter, music, and the smell of barbecue. Mia wheeled herself to the center of the field, Brutus trotting beside her, his leash loose in her hand. At first, people stared, whispering to each other. Some parents pulled their children closer, wary of the big dog, but Mia didn't let it bother her. She called out, "This is Brutus. He used to be scared and angry, but now he's my best friend. He helps me every day." To everyone's amazement, Brutus sat calmly beside Mia, his eyes bright and alert. When a little boy dropped his ice cream, Brutus gently nudged the cone back to him with his nose, making the boy laugh. When an elderly woman tripped on the sidewalk, Brutus barked for help, drawing attention until someone came to assist. The crowd began to relax, their fear replaced by admiration. Children gathered around Mia and Brutus, petting the dog and asking questions. Mia answered each one patiently, her face glowing with happiness. Then, as the sun began to set, a sudden commotion erupted near the playground. A small child had wandered too close to the pond and slipped into the water. Panic spread as parents rushed to help, but Brutus reacted instantly. He broke free from Mia's grip and sprinted to the pond, diving in without hesitation. The crowd watched in stunned silence as Brutus swam to the struggling child, gently grabbing the back of the child's shirt in his jaws and pulling him to safety. The parents wept with relief, hugging that child and thanking Brutus over and over. Mia wheeled herself to Brutus's side, tears streaming down her face. "You did it. Brutus, you saved him." The crowd erupted in applause, some people openly crying. The local newspaper snapped photos, and by the next day, the story of Brutus Da, once aggressive dog who had become a hero, was all over town. That night, as Mia and Brutus curled up together in her room, Laura and Tom sat on the edge of the bed, their hearts full. "You changed his life, Mia," Laura whispered, "and he changed yours." Mia smiled, stroking Brutus's fur. "We saved each other, Mom." The journey had been long and difficult, filled with fear, doubt, and pain. But in the end, love and patience had triumphed. Mia and Brutus had found in each other the courage to heal, to trust, and to hope again. And as they drifted off to sleep, the world outside seemed a little brighter, a little kinder, because of the bond they shared. The weeks that followed the community picnic were filled with joy, healing, and a sense of wonder that spread far beyond the Miller family's home. The story of Mia and Brutus became a beacon of hope for Willow Springs, and soon, for people across the country. The local newspaper ran a front-page article, "Paralyzed girl and formerly aggressive dog become town heroes." The story was picked up by regional news, and soon, messages of support and admiration poured in from strangers near and far. People sent letters, drawings, and even donations to the shelter in Brutus's name, hoping to help other animals find their second chance. At home, Mia and Brutus settled into a routine that brought out the best in both of them. Brutus learned to sense when Mia was sad or tired, resting his head in her lap or fetching her favorite blanket. Mia, in turn, became more independent, her confidence growing with every new challenge she faced. She learned to maneuver her wheelchair with Brutus by her side, and together, they explored the world with curiosity and courage. Laura and Tom watched their daughter blossom. The house was filled with laughter and Mia's giggles as Brutus chased his tail, the thump of his paws as he raced down the hallway, the quiet moments when Mia read to him by the window. The scars of the past were still there, but they were no longer the center of their lives. The community, too, was changed. Inspired by Mia and Brutus, more families visited the shelter, adopting animals that others had overlooked. The staff at Willow Springs Animal Shelter started a new program, pairing children with special needs with dogs who needed extra love and patience. The results were nothing short of miraculous. Children who had once been withdrawn and anxious began to smile and play, and dogs who had been labeled unadoptable found homes and happiness. Mia was invited to speak at her school, sharing her story with classmates and teachers. She spoke honestly about her fears, her struggles, and the day she met Brutus. He was scared, just like me, she told them. But we helped each other. Sometimes, all it takes is one friend to change your life. Brutus sat beside her on stage, wearing a shiny new collar and a medal from the local fire department for his heroism at the picnic. The applause was thunderous, and Mia beamed with pride. As the seasons changed, Mia and Brutus continued to grow together. They faced setbacks, bad days, when old fears resurfaced, moments when progress seemed slow, but they never gave up on each other. Their bond was unbreakable, forged in pain and strengthened by love. One evening, as the family sat on the porch watching the sunset, Mia turned to her parents. "I used to think I'd never be happy again after the accident, but now I know that even when life is hard, there is always a way. Brutus taught me that." Laura hugged her daughter, tears in her eyes. "You taught us all what it means to be brave, Mia." Tom nodded, his voice thick with emotion. "You and Brutus are our heroes." As the sun dipped below the horizon, Mia stroked Brutus's fur, her heart full. She knew their journey wasn't over. There'd be more challenges, more moments of doubt. But she also knew that together, they could face anything. The story of Mia and Brutus became a legend in Willow Springs, a reminder that no one is ever truly alone, and that even the most broken hearts can heal with love and patience. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, sometimes the bravest heroes are the ones who refuse to give up on each other. Sometimes the greatest miracles come from the most unexpected friendships, because love, in the end, is what saves us all.